Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, search and recovery efforts continue for those missing after the wildfires in Hawaii. And climate change and inflation are making it harder for homeowners to find affordable insurance.
Plus, the weather is quiet this evening, but a few showers are possible later tonight. Your full forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts right now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. With the death toll from last week's Hawaii wildfires up to 111 and expected to climb even higher, emergency managers on Maui are defending their decision not to activate warning sirens. CBS's Jordan Segundo reports from West Maui, where the community has come together to support each other.
As the flames move closer to their vacation rental in Lahaina, Christina Lee Garrido and her best friend made a decision that may have saved their lives.
It was thick black smoke, so we knew we needed to get to the pool. There were no other options.
With no official guidance on what to do, they waited in the pool for 2 to 3 hours until firefighters came to their rescue.
I think any warning would have been extremely helpful, even if it just got us to come out of our homes and our condos and look around.
But the head of Maui's emergency management agency is defending the decision not to activate sirens.
Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Mauka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
As search efforts continue, locals are doing their part to help those who lost everything. All across Maui's west side, this is what you're seeing, the community coming together in what they're calling Kanaka Costco. You can see everything from toiletries to food, diapers, and so much more. This is the Maui coming together to help one another out, the Kokua, the Malama, and all the Aloha spirit.
We're not in the gated communities up north. This is the heart right here.
Every single person on this island is stepping up and doing something.
Maui Dr. Josh Starbuck is taking part in community organized relief efforts.
We've got people coming in, a lot of kind of medication refills, some burns, starting to see some more mental health issues popping up.
The need is overwhelming and the effort to help continues to grow. Jordan Segundo, CBS News, Maui.
Hawaii's Attorney General announced a third-party independent review of the state and county's response to the wildfires. A wildfire burning in California has prompted officials to issue evacuation orders there. The fire happened near the town of Washington. Nevada County officials say 31 acres were burned and only 5% had been contained as of this morning. Emergency officials say the fire's growth overnight was minimal and there would be a coordinated effort to reinforce the line and build contingency lines. Parts of Canada are still dealing with major wildfires as officials ordered the evacuation of the Northwest Territories' capital of Yellowknife and several smaller communities yesterday. So far, no deaths have been reported from the Yellowknife fire, but several structures have been destroyed. Canada is enduring its worst wildfire season ever, with more than 1,000 active fires burning across the country, including 230 in the Northwest Territories.
There is a possibility that without rain, the fire reaches the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend. It is approaching, but there's time to complete the community evacuation. It's being called now so that we can allow people the opportunity to drive while the highway is open.
Thousands of residents of the sparsely populated territory have already left smaller communities, and the hamlet of Enterprise near the Alberta border was almost entirely destroyed by a blaze that swept through last Sunday.
Dry weather continues across the mountains into your Thursday evening. Here's a live look from the WYMT studio. You can see some blue sky back in the distance. That temperature is still very comfortable in the upper 70s and lower 80s right now. 79 here in Hazard, and that dew point at 59. So again, it feels very nice as you step out the door. But those temperatures a little bit warmer today in the lower 80s for most of us. 81 for London, 83 in Manchester, and 80 over in Breathitt County at Jackson at this hour. But on the radar, we are dry. However, we are you're watching out for this front near the Ohio River over portions of Indiana, also northern Kentucky and into Ohio. This cold front could spark maybe a few showers into late tonight, also early on Friday, as that continues pushing off to the south. But into your evening, we do stay dry, also comfortable. Temperatures falling into the middle to lower 70s. And again, as we go late tonight, maybe a few spotty showers. It's not going to be a big deal, and those temperatures fall into the middle 60s as you wake up on Friday. But some awesome weather is on the way on Friday. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. The Fulton County, Georgia Sheriff's Office is aware of potential threats against members of the grand jury that indicted former President Trump. Purported names, photos, and addresses of grand jurors in the Trump election subversion case in Georgia are circulating on the far-right internet. That Fulton County grand jury voted this week to indict the former president and 18 co-defendants. Experts say some anonymous users are calling for violence against the jurors. Funeral services are being held for a 3-year-old migrant girl who died while on a Texas-sponsored bus to Chicago. The child, an asylum seeker who died last week, started having health concerns while en route on a chartered bus from Brownsville in South Texas. The girl died in Salem, Illinois. An Illinois Welcoming Center is providing support with burial and funeral costs. The coroner says the preliminary autopsy on the girl was inconclusive. 10 cars fresh off an assembly line at the Ford plant in Chicago were stolen yesterday, and 4 more vehicles were found damaged nearby. A giant hole was spotted in the fence. Police sources say at least 7 suspects got away. In all, the vehicles, mainly Lincolns, were worth around $750,000. So far, no word on any arrests. 2 new lawsuits have been filed on behalf of survivors and family members of the victims of the 2022 Buffalo mass shooting. 10 people were killed in the racially motivated attack at a Tops Friendly Market grocery store. The 19-year-old white shooter was sentenced to life in prison. The goal is to impose accountability from the gun and body armor manufacturers, the store that sold the killer his weapon, YouTube, Reddit, and the shooter's parents. The parents of slain Parkland student Joaquin Oliver led a caravan of empty buses in Washington, D.C. to bring attention to gun violence. 23 buses left RFK Stadium and traveled to the National Rifle Association headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia. Each empty bus seat represented the 1,518 children killed by guns so far this year. Joaquin Oliver was one of 17 students and staff killed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018.
We don't need your guns. We don't need your money. And we're going to get rid of your politicians.
Manuel and Patricia Oliver have been traveling the country this summer in a retrofitted school bus, stopping in 24 mass shooting locations to hold rallies and marches. As the impacts of climate change worsen, homeowners insurance is getting more expensive and harder to obtain in states that are considered to be at high risk of natural disasters. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez explains the factors driving up insurance costs and what homeowners can do about it.
With more than 2,200 homes and businesses destroyed or damaged in the Maui wildfires, according to the governor of Hawaii, the struggle to rebuild will be long and costly.
From the ashes, we will survive.
It's the latest in an unfortunate trend, the devastating increase in both the severity and frequency of natural disasters. And insurance companies are taking note, raising premiums in some cases, and even pulling out entirely from disaster-prone markets like Louisiana and California.
Well, there's been a very difficult combination of an increase in risk with more drought, heat, wind, flood, in combination with migration towards the highest risk areas.
Another factor driving up the cost of homeowners insurance, inflation.
Everybody's paying more for construction materials, housing, rebuilding costs, labor, and so on. So even if you take the perils out of the conversation, they're still going to see an increase.
So what do you do if your rates are skyrocketing? David Martlett with the Brantley Risk and Insurance Center says companies are more likely to insure homes with features that protect it, like a fire-resistant roof or storm shutters. You can also look for alternative coverage options.
You need to contact probably agent in your area. They would be your first source of maybe finding another carrier that has entered the market, or they can help you get coverage through the state-run market of last resort.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, if you've ever been envious of someone else's financial situation, you are not alone. How to recognize your triggers and reflect on what actually brings you joy.
And the summer sizzle looks to return for the second half of your weekend. That full forecast coming up.